Episode 22, Steve. Consistency, man. We're back.
Good. It's good.
Yeah.
We are back.
We're back.
Another week.
Yeah.
Another episode. I like it.
Yeah, it was good last episode, Brian.
It's very good. Yeah, I think we've had lots of good ones, but for me, just the information and then just the credibility of who that was coming from.
Yeah.
Just that focus was unbelievable. It was awesome. Yeah.
That was awesome. And today we have another special guest.
I do.
We have Rachel Lowe joining us. How you going, Rachel?
Good.
How you been?
Good. Back for Young Matildas from the US. It's nice to be home. Nice to be back in the factory training. So
Yeah.
happy.
That's not all you were back for. What did you do last week?
Had Matildas camp, which was really good. It was actually my first camp because I never went to a camp before I went away with the Matildas because I got a weird call up when they called me when I was driving to training and then I had to race to the airport and get on the plane. So it was nice to be in camp and kind of like have a week of like solid training. So yeah, that was nice and it was a good experience.
Yeah, nice. So let's before we kick into what you've been doing lately, let's just take it back and we'll give people a bit of insights into your career and how you started. So what age did you start playing football?
I think I was kind of later. I think I was about 9. I moved house. I was living in like inner west, and then moved out to where I am now. And then I found a club. I think it was West Pymble. Played there for 3 years or so. Got picked up by Northern Tigers, and then played there a lot of my youth career. I played there until I was like 14, 15. Then played institute all the way throughout until I was 17. I was playing for Wanderers for 3 years, so that was good. I love that. I had 3 years there, so yeah, I started in when I was 15.
So what age did you take it like seriously and go, you know what, I've got something, I can take it further?
I think in my last year at Tigers, I kind of realised that I was doing pretty well and getting noticed by people, and that's when I got last year at Institute, and that kind of kick-started you get more exposure at Institute. There was different coaches, and I had Craig Foster, who was a great coach. Really loved working with him. Had Leah, and then transitioned into leaving school and going to college. So that's kind of my background. Yeah.
So how did you end up in the W League? So how did that come about?
I was at Young Matildas camp. My first one, I was really young. I was 15 or 14, and Stadge was there, and he was like, "Are you doing W League?" And I was like, "No." He goes, I'll have a look around and see what I can find, and he linked me with Wanderers, and then I went for a trial there, and then it kind of just snowballed, and was there for 3 years.
Yeah, how was your first season? Because you at such a young age.
Yeah, I was pretty young. It was actually good. I got a lot of game time. I played nearly every game, I think, and was getting decent game time. And I think the league's progressed. So when I first started out, it was easier than when I left last year. So there was quite a big jump between my first year and my last year because the players and the type of the style of the league's changed even within the time I've been in it, which is not very long. So I loved it.
Was it intimidating being that young and going in, and you've got obviously the big range of players, Matilda's players?
I think initially, yeah, it was always coming into new environments is a bit intimidating, especially with older players, but W League attracts a lot of young players, which I like about it. It's a good platform for young girls in Australia to really show what they've got against some decent international players. So it's intimidating, but I also think it's a good opportunity for young girls to step up and get a name for themselves.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's set a foundation for you to kind of move forward? Yeah, I
think it's definitely a good platform for national team stuff. I think if you're performing in the W League, then you can be easily picked up on the radar for young Matildas. So I think it's a good stepping stone, an opportunity for girls who might not get because New South Wales is predominantly the state that kind of gets all the development, all the institute programs and kind of national teams are kind of filtered all through New South Wales. So I think for girls in different states, it's a good opportunity for them to be seen.
Yeah. And what was the level of I suppose training going from institute to W League? Was it a big jump, or did you find it?
I think the first year, because the first year W League wasn't as strong as it was when in my final my last year. So I think that the level between institute and W League was pretty not as not a bigger jump, but I think if I came out of institute now and went to W League, that would be quite a large jump. So I think that having those 2 years in W League really, 3 years in W League really helped my development, especially playing against like older girls. But yeah, I think institute did provide like a platform for me, definitely to get into W League, and yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, when you were at the Wanderers, you started training in the factory with Steve. So how was that? You know, training in a professional environment, then doing extra sessions.
Yeah, I think I emailed you or something, and it didn't go through. So you messaged me on Instagram. You're like, I think you emailed me, but it didn't go through, or something. And I was like, yeah, like I really want to come and do a session. And then I was literally here like every week, like 2-3 times a week. My first year at W League, and that was like, I think that was like my the key point for me in that W League. My progression was coming in here and like linking that with my W League training. I think my game went to a whole nother level. And yeah, I never looked back. I'm here every chance I can get. literally, I'm like, please gotta come in, please. So yeah, no, I love it. It's amazing.
And then you got your call up to the Matildas. So you're in young Matildas, and then how old were you when you got the call up to?
I think I was 17. So it was last year. I think. Yeah, last year got the call up. I think Emily Gillian got injured. I'd had a pretty good young Matildas tournament. Like I felt like I was in good form, and then I was driving to institute, and I get a call, and I actually missed the call, and I was like, oh, it's alright, I'll get it after training. And then the call comes through again, and I pick it up, and it's like, hello, this is Alice Tajic, and I'm like, oh my god, like nearly crashed the car. And he's like, you need to turn the car around now because like you've got to get to the airport, because we've got a flight tonight out to Portugal. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll just go home and get on a flight. But yeah, no, it was insane. It was like a massive whirlwind, 24 hours, just like did not expect it, and yeah, it was like pretty crazy.
So the day you got the call was the same day you
like
flew
within
out?
2 hours I was on a plane. Yeah,
Wow.
it was like nuts. It was
That's crazy.
definitely not
It's
a normal
complete
thing.
surprise.
Yeah,
to you?
complete surprise.
Like no
I
one
didn't even realize I was in the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no one spoke to you, or Stag just looking at you, nothing.
I think they kind of used it for me as just a massive learning thing. I was not expecting to go over there and get time. It was just like a fact of training with the girls and just like understanding what the intensity is in that environment and what is required to like not only get in the team but stay in the team. And that's something that I'm looking to do in the future. I really want to kind of make my way into the team and kind of set a position and not just be called in every once in a while.
Yeah, you want to cement your spot
Yeah.
there. And now you played the W League and then you opted to go the college route. How did that come about?
It was definitely something I thought about like long and hard. I didn't make it a rash decision. There's like multiple factors why I went. I think I had 3 years in the W League. Like I loved it, but in the off season, like Australia doesn't really offer something that I like that combined my studies and my playing. So college is like I feel it was a good buffer zone because obviously I want to go pro, but I don't think I was ready to go pro at 18. So I think college is a really good like stepping stone for moving overseas and getting that exposure to different leagues and different people and different players. And like UCLA has some very good players to play alongside, like play it with the likes of like Ash Sanchez and Jessie Fleming. They're all like Jessie's like probably the best player I played with, and Ash as well. Like technically, like unreal. So I think surrounding myself with those players has definitely like changed the way I think about the game as well. But yeah, it's been positive.
So was the academic aspect definitely something that you...
Yeah, I definitely think that I needed to have a degree after because obviously women's football isn't paying. It's paying well initially, like you can survive on it year to year, but after your career's finished, you don't have nothing to fall back on. It's not like the men who are earning like millions and they can retire and not have to work another day in their life. So I think that having a degree is really important, and yeah, I don't want to be kind of like unemployed and
Homeless.
Yeah.
Working at McDonald's. Little Matilda working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the
Yeah, I don't want to.
the statistics.
No, yeah, so.
So how did you end up at UCLA? Because that's a D1 school, right?
Yeah. So I had, through Wanderers actually, my mentor, Peter Hugg, who works at Football New South Wales, he's good friends with Tom Samani, who knows the UCLA head coach because he coached the US women's national team. So it was kind of like all these like different links. And then it was really good timing because when Tom was talking to like Amanda, my coach, and then I was kind of like emailing different coaches and seeing what was the options. I was called into the Matildas, so that kind of really raised my profile. So yeah, everything just kind of happened and the timing was good and yeah, it worked out.
Are you the first Matilda to be playing college football?
Tegan Micah is at UCLA as well. She's a keeper, so she's in the Matildas right now. But yeah, that's all. Ivy Lewick did play in college, but that was a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is like college life and the facilities there playing?
The facilities are unreal compared to like there's just the budget they have is unreal because football, like American football, is the biggest like the revenue maker for college. So there's a rule in the NCAA that you have to split the money for women's and men's sports. So like if football makes like X amount of dollars, they have to split it across women's sports. So all our facilities are really good. And
do you use the men's facility or?
No, we have separate facilities.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So we share facilities with like the men's soccer team, but the like basketball, football have all their own facilities.
Yeah.
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 Big
Because
place.
it's a big school, yeah, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to the basketball and the
Yeah.
American football stuff.
Yeah, it's massive.
So what are you studying over there?
I'm not actually I haven't declared a major yet because in your first year at college you can do like general education, which is it's basically just trying different classes to see what major you would like to go down. But I think I'm kind of veering towards like either psychology or environmental science or something along those
Okay.
lines. But yeah,
That's pretty
I have
cool.
to declare next year, so
Yeah.
I'll keep you
So you're going to
posted.
stick out the 4 years in college?
Yeah, well, I'm taking it year by year at the
Yeah.
moment. I always reevaluate where I'm at, and like I'm not going to stay somewhere if I don't think it's helping my development. Like I know that professional careers aren't long, so I'm not going to stick around if it's not ideal for me. So yeah, definitely like hoping to stay 4 years, but if circumstances aren't going the way I want them to, then I'm not like it's not a 4-year sentence.
Yeah. It's a great way to look at it. So do they have a draft like they do with the MLS
Yeah,
in the college?
they have what's it called? NWSL draft. But yeah, the draft is a bit different to like the NBA draft and all that. I feel
Yeah.
like the NWSL drafts, you're less likely to get into a team through the draft. I feel because apparently a lot of the draftees just get cut after like preseason. So I don't know. It's obviously an option, but I don't like. It's not the reason I went there anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I'm going to go on the draft.
Because it also makes you ineligible until you kind of declare yourself for a draft, right? So say for instance, if Portland came knocking, they really can't because you're.
Yeah, so you'd have to basically I think you'd have to quit, like you'd have to leave college. You can still do your degree, but you can't play in the college league because of the rules about like professional.
What's that like period? Is it a year or?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So if a European offer came knocking, would you leave college?
Depends on what it was. If it was a good one, then
Yeah.
probably. Like, yeah, depends on opportunity, but if it was like a top place, then
Like
yeah.
France or Germany or
Yeah,
something, England.
Yeah, I think England's probably my
That's your goal.
yeah. I wouldn't play England.
Which team?
Like Arsenal maybe.
Hey.
Arsenal's the
Who's an
best.
Arsenal fan?
Yeah.
There we go. There's an Aussie coach there. So.
Yeah, Joe. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So how overall do you feel like your career's come together? Like you're still very young. You played W League, you played international, you're in college, like, and you're not even, how old are you now?
18.
18.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of things for a youngster to kind of go through, and it's pretty impressive as well because it takes a lot of dedication and hard work to get to where you're at now.
Yeah, well, I think like one of my strengths as a player is just like I'm always wanting to do extras, and like I think I'm a pretty hardworking person. I'm definitely not the most talented, like I could name a starting 11 more talented than me in like the under 20s.
Really? Just see the squad.
but yeah, I think that I've got like tunnel vision and I know what I want and I know how to get there. It's just like hard work. So yeah, I know I'm young, but like I'm happy with it.
What motivates you?
I like seeing improvement, like seeing like with Steve, like doing like repetitions of a certain like technique or something and then coming back and doing it again and again and then seeing like how you're getting better and better and then seeing that in the game. It's just like rewarding for me. And yeah, I just like to push myself, and I've always wanted to be a footballer because I like the lifestyle and getting paid to do something you love, and yeah. No better thing.
Has there ever been like a moment where you've gone, you know what, I'm sick of this? You're overseas in the US, you're homesick, you kind of get fed up. Have you hit any of those moments?
Moving to the US is a lot harder than I initially thought. I thought it was going to be a breeze and it was just going to be like college life and all happy days, but no, it was really tough the first, because they brought me in, so the freshmen, like the first years, start in their summer, and I went in their spring, so I went earlier because they wanted me to like adjust and get used to the like academics and moving into housing and all that kind of stuff. But that was probably the toughest time like of my life probably, because there were no other freshmen there. Like I was pretty much alone. There were like obviously older girls there, but they were all kind of in their own groups, and yeah, it was just really tough for me being away from home. Like I'm a home, pretty much a homebody. Like I love being around my family, so yeah, it was tough. And the time difference, so not talking to them certain times of the day, and yeah, it was definitely tough. But I've got through that kind of bump, and yeah, it's good now. I like it.
Yeah. What was it like? Was it difficult to adjust culturally?
Yeah, I think American, like, even though it's an English-speaking country, it's a very different culture. Everyone's very loud and like a bit obnoxious. Yeah, it's quite different. Everyone in Australia is very laid back, and you don't really realise that until you go over. But I think I'm getting used to it and finding some like friends that are less American than others. But yeah, no, I'm liking it now, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Steve, so you've been working with her for, is it over a year now?
Long time.
Yeah.
Too long.
Too long. How have you seen her progression from when she started to, you know, getting a W League, scoring in the W League, getting Matilda's cap, going to college, coming back? Like, how's that progression?
Yeah, I think she hit the nail on the head about how she's just got that mindset, how she wants to improve and things like that, and continue to work and continue to do extras. And we've said it all along, that's the attribute that separates the good from the great. And just seeing, so when she first came in, she was a million miles from where she was then, but she's still a very, very good player there. But it's just been refining and working on different parts of her game, which has helped her to elevate to that next level. And then, since she's been back from America, just physically, her physique's changed a little bit, so she's gotten bigger. So put on more size to play at that next level. But yeah, it's been good, and it's always a pleasure. She's in there, she works hard. She's been training with one of the boys the last 2 days, and he's actually had to put in proper sessions to try to keep up with her. But yeah, and it's like we say with all those top players, like I said, that's the attribute that's going to take you as far as you're willing to work for, and she's got the attributes in spades, and I think she can be whatever she wants to be.
Yeah, and she was saying that she's probably not in the starting squad technically. Yeah, for me, like when we were speaking about this before off, there's you and 2 others I would say are head and shoulders above the rest of the country. And they all train in here. Well, I suppose it only makes you better when you're training together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we push each other, I think.
Yeah.
Like I do sessions with like Amy and like Susan and all them, and like it's competitive. Like if someone makes a mistake, like you wanna be like informed and sharp, and yeah, I definitely think everyone who's in this factory pushes each other to the next level. I love that about it as well. It's good.
I find myself, woo! Yeah, yeah. But no, like I mean, it's been good. She's been back. She came straight back from Matilda's camp. We got a session in before she went into camp just to get a feel for the ball. She got out of camp. When was it?
Friday.
and I think you've pretty much been in
Yeah.
every day since then.
Yeah.
And then go back into camp on Thursday and get him ready for the big
Qualifiers.
World Cup qualifiers, which is a massive moment, hopefully. Yeah.
Just tying this back to the conversation we had with Ryan last week, and we kind of touched on it earlier about, you know, the constant playing games and not being able to improve. You know, you've gone from national team camp now to, you know, youth camp. From college, you're still mid-season in college, so you have
Yeah.
to take, like...
I'm basically missing majority of the season. I think when I get back, it'll be playoffs. So
Yeah. So how do you feel like that kind of toll has it taken? Do you feel like it's taking a toll, it's taken away from your development? Constantly be playing, not really getting to focus, because, you know, just take Steve outside
Yeah.
the picture, factory doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think that like games are definitely. I think playing games is definitely different to training. So I think I definitely need games to improve my game, because that's obviously like where you need to perform. But yeah, like I think in college, because we play 2 games a week, that's like quite a lot. It's like Thursday, Sunday games. So the sessions that we can do in college aren't as intense as they could be if we were playing 1 game a week, because there's always that recovery and then just like game prep and all that kind of stuff. So it does take away from some intense sessions. So that's why I love being back in here. And I feel like in sessions, no matter where you go, you never get as many touches on the ball in a team session. Like you'll do a drill and you might like even in a rondo, like you might do like 3 sets of like 10, like I don't know, like a minute on, and you might touch the ball like 20 times. Whereas in here, like you can come in here and for 5 minutes you'll get like 50 touches. So I feel that individual training definitely has aided my game a lot. And even when I'm not here, even when I'm overseas, like I'm trying to find like a wall and like doing the same things I'm doing in here, but just without Steve and like the lights and stuff, but still like the same fundamentals. So yeah.
And the biggest thing that stands out about you as well, and this is something that I've always liked, and it's similar to the other ones that I rate on the same level as you, is just how humble you are. So if you look at what you've achieved in such a short period of time, I don't know whether that's just a weight from here or what, but in here, it's just that humbleness, and you don't see that a lot, especially with the new ones coming through. It's on a different level, but I think it's that continual focus on wanting to better yourself. You like, you don't get ahead of yourself and say, I've already made it, I'm already the best, I'm already whatever. So it's just that continual looking, and it keeps you grounded, and I see that in the other girls as well. But then you hear about the other ones and ones you come across that it's not so much, that haven't really achieved much, but for some reason think like they're on a higher level to everybody else and things like that, which is what I don't understand. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that stood out with me. So that work ethic and that humbleness, those 2 things combined make a lethal combination.
Yeah, because you got to stay grounded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you start thinking you're better than the rest, or you've you know, you've made institute, because you know some of these young girls, don't need to do this, don't need to do that, but that's the starting point.
Yeah.
You can't just stop now, like.
That's like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. But I think that should be the minimum what we're demanding of our young players coming up, that you continue to work hard and then you continue to stay humble. But unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing with a lot of them. So there's examples of players that aren't getting game times at their clubs because attitudes aren't correct, and then they're not getting reprimanded and trying to fix that, and then getting national team call-ups, which I find is crazy. So how are these kids ever going to change? Like, these are talented players. How are they ever going to go, you know what, I need to fix it so I can become the best I can be? They're not. They're going to continue to have bad attitudes, continue to not work hard in training and do all those things, but still keep getting rewarded. And this is the thing that's irking me about the system as well. And we won't go into too much with you, but the young Matilda squad came out today, and how that squad got assembled or where some of those names come from, I've got no idea. But just looking at that squad, and similar to what we spoke about the mini Matildas, if that's our best young Matildas team, then we're in serious trouble. Yeah.
With you the exception.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true, and that's the thing, is you can't keep rewarding, you know, bad behaviour.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of good kids are missing out,
Mm-hmm.
and people are actually putting in the work and being humble and being respectful.
I feel like personally as a player, like I'd rather play with 2, like if I'm in midfield, I'd rather play with 2 players that are hardworking and less technical than 2 players that are technically good but just don't really run, don't defend, don't care. So 100% like playing with players that work hard is like so much better.
Yeah, well, that's the
Makes
thing.
my
No
job
one's
easy.
playing next to someone that's not going to, work their socks off.
Yeah, and for national teams, that should be the bare minimum.
Yeah.
That's what we should be expecting
Yeah.
across the boards, and it's not. And you see people from certain places, this is what gets me, and this is what hurts us as a footballing country. People are given things they haven't worked for and haven't deserved. So these are talented players that like potentially will one day be a Matilda or whatever, it could be a young Matilda or whatever. But they're gifted things, whether it's an institute call-up or whether it's a certain school or it's a whatever, state team, whatever, that they haven't earned. So then like these things keep happening, and then when it gets to the point that whoever's giving them those things isn't there anymore to give them those things, they actually have to fight for their position. And we've seen a lot with a lot of the boys that we've seen before as well. They don't know how to fight, so then there's no one helping them. So that's when they just fall off the scheme, and we're losing these players to the game. When if the situations were managed properly and these national teams were managed properly, and people actually earned their jerseys and what they were doing, then there'd be a more appreciation for it. But you'd be able to fix these things, and it just doesn't happen. And it's
it's that state of the game issue that we speak about constantly. And it's touching all levels of the game. How did you feel like growing up? Did you feel like there was much support? You're elite, but for the other players,
just like normal play, like just as like across the board.
Yeah, across the board, the more talented ones obviously get further, like yourself, but the ones that are like fringe players in the squad, do you feel like there's additional support for them to kind of improve, or no? That's it.
I don't think so. Like I feel like if you're not in like a certain program and you're not going to a certain place, I think people lose. They feel like if they're not in a certain place then they're not going to make it. I feel like that's kind of a big thing. Like they assume that. I think people when they're younger think that I haven't made the state team under 13s, like my career's over. I honestly my state under 12s team.
Did you make state team?
Yeah, but and I didn't play much, but there's probably one or two players from my whole youth state team experience that I still playing literally. So it's people that work hard under the radar for that whole youth period. I think that actually come out on top, and because I know this young Matilda's team has changed so much from when I was in when I was first in it, and I think that teams constantly change, and you're going to get selected, you're not going to get selected, but I think that there definitely does need to be a bit more support with different programs and more options for players, because sometimes there's only one team, and then the level really drops off after that. There's not much else. So I think it was tough for some players, but I think that those with a good mindset do eventually filter through. So
So on your first Matildas guys, this is something issue. I don't think I've asked you this before. When you first went into that camp, and then obviously you went not the camp, the tournament, and you went through that whole experience, was there anything that stood out to you then and thought, what, this is a massive weakness in my game that I need to fix, or I need to be better at this, or was there something that really stood out that? And then compare that now to last week with this Matilda squad, was it still the same things, or was it different and it was more progressive?
I think when I first went in, I was definitely not expecting to go there, and probably not 100% ready. So I don't think my awareness was anywhere where it is now. I don't think I scanned, full stop. But yes, I think that playing in midfield in the under 16s or 17s in NPL, you can get away with a bad touch or turning blindly or doing that. But when you go to international, even 20s or Matildas, you're gonna get whacked. You're gonna lose the ball and not gonna get it back for 20 minutes. So yeah, I think that first Matildas thing really showed me my technique needed to improve, basically every aspect, but definitely my scanning, my awareness, my positioning, which I'm still all working on because it definitely needs a lot of improvement. But linking that with the one I was just in, I think my scanning and positioning is improved, but still just decision making and knowing where to be, because I have changed positions a little bit, so whether I'm playing an 8 or a 6 or a 10, so just changing my game.
Where do you see yourself as a player? What's your ideal
position?
I
think my best position is probably an 8. Box to box 8 probably. Yeah, that's probably where I get the ball, do a lot of running.
Because you've been asked to play as a 6 a lot.
Yeah.
In the younger ones, how are you finding that?
I don't mind it because you get a lot of ball and you can dictate play more. So I enjoy that part, but I don't think I'm naturally a 6.
Mhm.
I like to join the attack and try and score some goals, hopefully. But yeah, I think probably an 8 is my ideal.
Yeah, so I don't think that young group really has a standout 6
No.
apart from Taylor, right?
Yeah, and she's injured, so
Yeah, Amy's not a 6.
yeah.
You're not a 6.
I think they're a little bit like lost of who their 6 is, so they're trying a lot of people out. But
Surely
yeah.
someone at Westfield they put in there.
But yeah, Taylor's definitely like the most 6 player we have
Yeah.
in our age group. Yeah.
What do you think her ideal position is there?
It's either an 8. I think she could play as a 10 as well, but I'd sort of probably agree along those lines as an 8. But I think she could definitely play as a 10. Not so much as a 6. I don't think defending's one of your strongest parts of your game.
You should talk to my dad about that. He's like, you can't defend. I'm like, cheers.
Yeah, and she's got that creative. She can go past people. She can dribble. She can hit a ball. So she needs to be closer to the 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. It's more of a 10.
Mhm.
So, hey, suit you. Hey, how are your parents like with football? Because there's the vocal parents. There's the parents that leave you alone. There's the parents that sit there and coach Steve to coach their kids.
Well, my parents are definitely listening. 100%. But nah, they're like so supportive. My dad played. He played not very high level, like he played, but he loves the game. He watches it a lot. And he's definitely been like my anchor throughout my whole career. My mum's really supportive, but she didn't really play much. But she's definitely got to understand the game more because she's had to watch like thousands of games and drive me to different ends of the earth. But yeah, no, my parents have been unreal. They support me everything I do. I don't think becoming a footballer was like when they had kids, their first thought was like, my daughter's not going to become a footballer. Like my parents aren't like the most athletic people. So I was talking to my mum about it recently actually in the car. She's like, if I went back to a school reunion and they said whose kid's going to be an elite athlete, it would not be me. Like they would all laugh. So yeah, no, they're so good though. Yeah.
So does your dad like coach you?
He doesn't really coach me, but he'll definitely like analyze the game and be like, I think he can read the game really well. So he definitely will give me a wrap after the game.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you ever give him like a cold shoulder if he gives you a bit of criticism?
Not really. It's always due if it's criticism. Like, yeah.
How are you with like criticism? Can you handle it? Do you take it personal? Do you shut down?
I can handle it. It does depend who it comes from. If it's someone that I don't like trust or don't really care about their opinion, then I don't really take it on board. But like there are like certain people like that I trust, and I'll take their opinion on board. And like their criticism isn't really like offensive to me. It's more like they want to help me and they want to get me to be better. So like yeah, I don't really listen to other people, but I don't value their opinion.
Yeah, but if say for instance like your dad gave you criticism or Steve, and it was bad, would you take it a bit heavy, or would you take it, look, I need to work on my game?
Oh, I think like naturally you'd be like a bit down initially, but I think that it's always
You know it's coming from a good
it's
place.
coming from a good place and they want you to improve. So
Yeah.
all ears.
Stevie, we got some questions, don't we?
We do have some questions. You got some questions sent through. Let me have a gaze. Archer, where are we? Yes, Lowe. I think it was a good photo as well. You weren't really impressed. No,
My shin pads
say,
though.
yeah, I know, what was it? Go the shin pads. I was looking at it like, what
please.
was that?
It was so bad. It always happens. It like slips around.
At least your grip socks will fit that, yeah.
FD grip socks.
Yeah. Who helped you the most to get where you are today? From 3 Little Twigs.
Well, 3 Little Twigs. Who helped me the most? Probably, let's say, I'm gonna name 3 people. My dad, Craig Foster, and Steve. They're the top 3. Yeah.
Thanks for putting me last. I couldn't live with being after your dad.
Dad, Steve, Craig. We'll edit that one. No.
Yeah. Do you feel that women's football is on the same level as men's football? That's a pretty broad question.
Well, I mean, it's never going to be on the same level because just because of the how the way we're built, we can't, like, we're not as strong or fast or, you know, like it's like physically impossible to be the same. But I think that the women's game's growing like exponentially, and the men's game is pretty much like stagnant. So I think that we're going to be a lot better in the future. But yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be equal. But
you don't?
I mean, not like playing wise.
No, playing wise, I thought that's biological.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, I think one
think
day
it should be equal,
potentially it could, crowds and things like that, if it starts to go. But the biggest problem with that I find, and we spoke about just during the World Cup, women don't watch women's football.
That's what I always, women like, we complain about like not watching, we complain about not getting paid the like same amount of money, but like it's the women that need to go and be watching, like filling the stadiums.
Yeah. Because
you go to a W League game and the majority of the supporters are men, and like that's great and that's like awesome, but it needs to be coming from like females.
Yeah. So we got here, you kind of answered it before, but when did you realise you wanted to play professional football? I think you asked when, like, did you realise you could, but when did you realise it's actually what you wanted to do?
Maybe, probably year 9 or 10, like actually realistically, because...
Was that any last year?
Don't even start me. Yeah, I think when everyone starts talking about, oh, what do you want to do in the future? I'm like, oh, well, football. But yeah, I think around that age.
Did you ever say to anyone, I'm going to be a professional footballer? Like when they
Yeah, at
asked you,
school all
like,
the time. And
confidently?
everyone, yeah, at school all the time. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, I don't need to do that homework, I'm going to be a professional footballer. And they'd be like, not how it works, okay.
Did it work for you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because your school wasn't very sporty, was it?
No. Oh, I mean, it tries to be, but it's an academic, like it's known for being pretty smart. Yeah.
Alright, so into the first part, how was your first month's been? How has your first month's been? And then what is the quality like over there?
First month's initially tough, a lot better now. Quality, it's just a different style, very quick, fast-paced. Definitely had to make decisions earlier and quicker. But yeah, it's higher quality than what I was playing before W League.
What about compared to W League?
I think maybe just a touch under. Yeah.
Is that because of the age, would you say, or?
Yeah, and just there's the top colleges, I would say, like the top 10 would compete in W League pretty easily, but then it does drop off. Like there's quite a big range.
Yeah.
How many teams in your conference?
It's called the Pac-12, so 12, I think.
And the last one, what is your opinion on the state of the W League and what needs to change?
The state of the W League. I had a positive experience there.
Do you have 2 or 3 coaches at Wanderers?
2.
2.
Yeah, 2. What needs to change? I think something that would really help with crowds is doing double headers a lot more with the men's. They did that once or twice and that was really awesome, but it's not consistent. And then, just trying to attract bigger international names and keeping the Matildas here. Obviously because Europe's getting big and everyone wants to kind of like go. I don't know if Sam Kerr's officially said that she's not doing W League, but I've heard that she might not be doing W League, so that's a big loss to the W League because we played Perth and all the fans there were for Sam Kerr and it was a home game. So yeah, I think that keeping like the key Matildas here and then investing in getting good internationals.
So here's a flip question then based on that. What's more important, a strong national team or a strong W League?
Strong national team.
Strong national team.
Yeah.
So again, that's the problem, and I think that's the problem we're always going to have unless our setup changes and it becomes a full professional league in 2 rounds, home and away. Things like we're always going to struggle. Now that shift has started to turn towards Europe and it doesn't align up with the other leagues, and that's why I think that obviously the powers that be at the moment want to try to tie in as closely as we can with America to try to keep all the players here, but you're seeing that shift that's starting to happen in women's football now, and I think it's going to be harder and harder to go. I mean, to keep those top ones, but even if, say, we're losing the 10 best ones, obviously it's going to hurt the league, but it opens up more opportunities for younger ones to be exposed to that earlier. and potentially it just becomes that kind of experience development and things like that. Also, we can still make it better, crowds can get better, and like you touched on with the double headers, I used to love the double headers. So you can get there early, you can watch two games as you go there. But then the other flip side of that is then you start to get complaints, well, why are the girls playing first, why aren't the men playing first, and things like that. Who's the main event? Like, it just turns it just turns into that kind of rubbish.
But I think on your point there, they do need to switch it to take it away from the European alignment, because the thing is, as Europe gets bigger, they have one draw card, and it's the Champions League, and the US don't have it, Australia don't have it, and you kind of can't have it. So we're better aligned with the US, and then let our players go play in Europe, and the other side of the season.
I think that also, like, when I first started playing W League, there was like a massive batch of young players that were like put into W League, and we were all 15, like 14, 15, and then we've stayed in W League, but then there's been no one younger coming in. So I feel as though the average age, like, there's not many young ones coming in 14, 15, 16 now that are getting in teams now. I think it's kind of my age group have started, like, they started young, but no one else has really come in that's young. So I think that maybe like Matildas and big names going from W League overseas could like open up stuff for younger girls.
How did you find that with the internationals? So obviously you had lots of different internationals in those 3 different years. Some were from America, some were from Europe. Did you find differences in the mentality with those players based off where they were?
Yeah, I think that.
I know the answer, but
yeah, just for some players, they see the W League just as kind of like a party, like let's earn some money in Australia and have fun. And for some, they did, like, they worked really hard and tried hard. But yeah, there is definitely kind of a stereotype that you come to the W League just to like have a bit of fun and some money and like live in Australia. So I think that turning it into a professional league would change that. But yeah, I think Wanderers definitely had some people that didn't, because there are people that came to Wanderers, didn't play very well, going then back to their own leagues overseas and are killing it, and we're here like like, yeah, but I don't know, I mean, it's everyone each their own, but it doesn't impact our team.
Yeah, and that's a big one. And you see, like, the Americans view their league as the best league in the world.
Yeah.
So regardless of how high they view the W League for them is still the off season.
Yeah.
So you're recruiting a whole bunch of players that obviously W League's important, but it's not the priority in their careers and where they're at for that year. So it turns into almost a summer holiday in Australia, a beautiful place where they get to come out and experience that. And then they're getting ready to go over and get ready for their other league, where you see players that come from other places, and particularly Europe. And the smartest one, and this is no surprise, Joe Montemurro is where we're with. So when we were a couple of years ago, he was at Melbourne City and we were looking at players to bring over into the W League.
Yeah.
He was only looking for Europeans. He wasn't looking for Americans. He wasn't looking for any of that. He was only looking for Europeans. And you would think with the success that he had with that team, and then started that trend, that other clubs would have followed, but they haven't. If you look at, I think all Wanderers recruits this league this year are American. You know what I mean? I think the vast majority, I think all the Sydney FC ones are American at this stage, and then like all the different players from around, the majority are from American. And like, it's like, surely you're looking at what was the foundations of the successful teams that have been in the W League. It's either obviously based off a strong Matildas contingent, or it's based off getting those internationals right and getting it there. So you look at Adelaide last year, who were perennial like underachievers, always down the bottom. They get a striker that can bang in goals, you know what I mean, and then it starts to shift. So
it's interesting. It definitely is interesting to see how they go in the future, and if they decide to kind of change that up and be more competitive.
Yeah.
But like you said, when there's other leagues out there who are offering a lot more money and more of a career to these players, you know, you have to be able to match that.
Yeah.
And like you said, what's more important, national team or the league?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stevie wants to play in the W League.
No. I'm too fat.
Are you a big football fan?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot more recently. I didn't used to watch.
Do you watch it religiously, or?
Oh, I wouldn't say religiously, but I try and watch as much as I can.
You're an Arsenal fan?
Not really.
Oh.
I'm kind of a Villa fan, like
A
kind of
Villa
random,
fan.
but yeah.
Is that still a thing?
She's a villain.
How'd that come about?
I just like Jack Grealish.
Who's that?
Is
He's
that
the captain.
the guy that's had some terrible spurts on his holidays in Europe.
Is it?
Yeah, didn't you see the one where he was passed out drunk in the streets of Spain,
Huh?
and they took a photo of him as the front page of all the papers?
Wow.
He was
Yeah.
out cold.
How long ago was
in
that?
the morning. It was like 2 years ago.
Yes.
And,
Look at that.
and he's the one that got punched. Remember when the fan jumped
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
field
yeah,
and ran
yeah,
up and
yeah.
punched the player?
Mhm.
He's a
That was
baller
him.
though. He's so good.
He's a quality player. He's had a lot of behavioural issues. That's why he hasn't moved to a big club.
Mhm.
But it was about 3 seasons ago. He was like, he's the next big thing. And
He's
just
really
started doing some silly things. So that's the only reason.
I mean, I like watching them play. They've got some good players like Mings and the Irish Scottish dude. I don't remember his name. But yeah, I watch them. I watch Liverpool. I watch, like all like the top teams. Chelsea. I enjoy watching Chelsea.
Did
Actually.
you say Chelsea top teams in the same sentence?
She said
As
I
I said,
enjoy
Man
watching
United.
Chelsea.
As I said, Man
Chelsea
United, the top
good.
team.
Mason Mount, good player.
Yeah, good player, clearly.
Tammy Abraham.
Tammy Abraham's a good player.
Yeah, he's doing well.
I'll give him that.
So young Matildas, what's the realistic? What's the plans? What are you trying to achieve?
Honestly, it would be unreal to qualify, and we've got a tough draw. Because I was at the same tournament 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had to beat China to qualify. Lost 3-0, something along those lines. But it showed us it was definitely possible. We have to have you kind of have to be a bit. The draw is really important. I definitely think we've got a good draw compared to the other group. We've got, who do we have?
You have Japan and North Korea.
We don't have Japan. We have North Korea, Vietnam, and South. No. Gosh, this is embarrassing. I don't know what it is. It's definitely Vietnam and North
Which
Korea.
one are they?
North Korea. We play North Korea first. So.
Where's that?
Thailand. Yeah. North Korea, Vietnam. China.
Whoever else is on the other side of the field when you walk out there.
It doesn't matter as long as we turn up and play. That's it.
Yeah.
So how's that culturally, like going into Asia? So obviously you've spent a lot of time there, a lot of trips
Yeah.
over to Asia. How do you find that?
Asia's growing so much as a football collective. We went to China for like 3 years straight, and they're a very good team. Japan are technically unreal. North Korea, even Vietnam, Myanmar,
Are you seeing them getting stronger?
stronger
All
and
these
stronger.
other countries? Yeah.
Vietnam we used to thump, and now they're a solid
Mhm.
team. It'll be a very good game. Myanmar as well. We played Myanmar at home. I mean, we played Myanmar in Myanmar,
Mm-hmm.
and got a crowd of
Can't believe you got that out in the same sentence. That was well done.
That was a tongue twister. Myanmar. And there was a big crowd, and yeah, it was like an unreal atmosphere.
Mhm.
So it was it showed the whole team that these Asian countries are here to play, and they all want to qualify. So it's not.
What about the off-field stuff? So obviously everything that you mentioned there, but going into countries that you can't speak the language, there's such a difference in the food, the cultures and everything. How hard is that to prepare yourself rather
Yeah.
than if you're playing here?
I think the food's probably the hardest part. I think people definitely have reactions to the food, and it's very foreign. You would never eat half that stuff at home if you were there. But I think it's just you've got to be professional, and you've got to just it's part of the job. So yeah, you just eat as normal as possible.
Mhm.
But obviously it's going to be a bit different. And then culturally, we have a translator, which helps because we cannot speak the language. But some of those countries do speak a bit of English, so that helps. But we're mostly just in the hotel training in the hotel, so we don't really get out and see a lot.
Yep.
So the group is Thailand, North Korea, and Vietnam.
It's close.
Well, the other group's Japan, China, South Korea.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's a tough group. Yeah.
Yep. So what is the top two?
Yeah,
Top two, and then so
Just go straight to
top
knockout.
3 go through.
Yeah, semi-finals or
So,
finals.
So if you come top of your group, you play the second in the other group, and then vice versa, and then the third and fourth play off. The third goes through.
Yeah. So that's still going to be tough, even if
Yeah.
you top the group, playing in any of those other ones in that other
It's
group.
tough.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty tidy format though. Think about it. Top 3
Mhm.
go through.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened with the how New Zealand qualifies? Like, what is their situation?
Oceania.
Do you know we used to be in there?
Yeah.
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 What happened with that?
We moved out just because of qualifying. So for the men, I don't know how it was for the women then, but for the men, the qualifying was we'd go through Oceania, we'd smash everybody,
Yeah.
and then we'd get some random South American team or a team from a different place that we'd have to play. So the first World Cup back that we made back into was the Uruguay one. So us beating Uruguay. Can you imagine us having to beat Uruguay now to go through? Like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's what it was, and that was very tough. So you've gone from, no disrespect to the other competition, but not much competition, to then bang, you've just gone up 100 levels to have to play them. So this was to try to get us like better competition and our younger players to be playing in these better tournaments, and which you've benefited from in that.
Yeah.
But there's parts of it thinking that was going to be an easier route, and that hasn't really happened.
Yeah. Because New Zealand qualify like every year.
Yeah. You should just go back. Give you that spot back.
Well, that was the funny thing with the men's one, because in 2006 and in 2002 it was Uruguay, and then Uruguay again.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Wasn't it Iran before that?
no, Iran was 97, so for
Yep.
98. So there was Oceania, Asia,
Mhm.
then it was Europe, South America.
Yeah.
Then Australia left, and then New Zealand got like Trinidad Tobago, and then they made the World Cup.
I know,
And they didn't lose in the
they're
World
like, New
Cup.
Zealand qualifies for the World Cup, beating like Fiji 20-0. I'm like, oh, awesome.
It's a strange.
It's a weird system, but
That's what it is. But
yeah.
well, we wish you the best
Thank
in
you.
the tournament. Hopefully, you score some goals
Yeah.
from number 6. Steve's worked on your long range shooting. Keep it up.
Halfway shots.
And we wish you the best going back to UCLA,
Thank you.
and look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
back
company.
in here. So when I'm land in Sydney, straight to
If you're looking for Rachel, you know where to